Hi, thanks for tuning back in here today. Today we're going to be doing a fun little painting. I hope you can enjoy painting along and just watching this video. So, tell you what, let me have them run the colors across the screen that you'll need to paint along with me. They'll be in the exact same order I had them on my palette. While they're doing that, let me explain to you what I have up here on my easel. I have my regular 16 by 20 inch canvas, pre-stretched, double primed, and I add a thin layer of the liquid white. Rather than that, it's slick, it's wet, and it's ready to go. Now, I drew this image and I printed this image out. So this is what we're working with today. It's a nice dark scene, hopefully dark and moody, and some seascape, a bow. We'll see what I can adapt, but that's the main goal. That's what we're trying to achieve. So rather than that, let's jump into the painting. So I'm gonna grab some phthalo blue and some alizarin crimson, just mixing it up with the palette knife right off the bat, and a little bit of burnt umber. Just mix it up. Let's see what we get with that going. So, let me use the brush I used to apply my liquid white and just load up some color. And let's decide where our sky is going to be. So maybe starts there. Well, keep in mind the ocean. So ocean is there, sky is there. It's always good to kind of separate the two, and that way you know which one's where. And just lock in a nice sky. The red and the burnt umber, all it does is just cool the colors down. That way it's not vibrant. I don't want this to be nice and vibrant. The white is lining it up, but it's still a bit dull. And that's what I want. Shoot, we'll grab a little touch of ivory black. There. Just try to create nice moody sky. There we are. When I was drawing that image, the one thing that I knew I wanted was a nice moody sky. I don't want a vibrant sky for this one. That's the only thing I knew. Rather than that, I was like, anything else, I don't mind working around it. There. That was my one must have. Like it has to be that way. Everything else, if it didn't go that way, it's alright. I think there's always that one thing in paintings, in every painting, where it's like I must have it. If I don't, I'm not gonna be satisfied. At least for me, there is. For me, if I don't have a certain element that I envisioned or whatever, then I'm not gonna be 100% satisfied with it. Just mixing up a bit more. Just same colors I used earlier. Just try to find the good ratio. Since I'm not adding white to it. Since I'm not adding white, I can't really test the value. I want this area to be nice and dark compared to the back. There we are. And just boom. There. You could see I left a little gap, but I did it on purpose because since there's that how can I say, that ledge where people could jump off or whatever. I'm planning to put it right there. But you could leave it as a light source like Bob Ross. Okay, let's go into some titanium white. Just tap your 2 inch. Let's come up here and right there. And you got to think the same way down at the bottom. And there's just, every time I do a moody painting, I like to have a light source. So for this one, the light source is right in the center. And we can pull that down and go across. There we are. Let's go ahead. We had a cloud going on in that painting. So let's go into a little bit of phthalo blue using a filbert brush, some crimson, and burnt umber. I have the brown I mix up and burnt umber. So the brown I mix up is a mixture of sap green and alizarin crimson. Or if you want to use um, burnt umber, both work perfectly. I have them because they both, in my opinion, have different purposes. And I like to have options. Plus, with the new style of painting I'm trying to learn, they use a lot of burnt umber. And so I need to get used to using it. There, we got this nice color going on. Let's just kind of tap in a nice cloud. Since the filbert is rounded, you can kind of just tap it and I'll make that nice fluffy spots. There. There we are. You know what? Let's add a nice small one over here. Now, we're going to go with diluted color, diluted white. You don't want to use pure white right off the get-go. And that's too diluted. What about now? Okay, that's better. Okay. And just little bit at a time. Think about each layer that you're layering in. Right here, just ooh, just tap it in basically. Okay. Now we're gonna blend it out, blend out that base, and lift up. Boom. Now we can add a even lighter value to it, helping us to create that highlight. Because if we would have used pure white right off the get-go, we would have lost that ability. There. Just think about each individual one. Right here. There comes a little bit right there. Just thinking where the light would kind of hit it. Where the light doesn't really hit, then you can kind of ease down a bit. There. We'll put that brush to the side and we'll lightly lift up and go across ever so gently. And we gotta add a little bit of highlight over here on this one. Something like so. Just something ever so delicate. Now, let's go back and let's create, oh, that's kind of the same value. Let's change up the tone. So blue, phthalo blue, alizarin crimson. I'm just mixing this up with my brush, my filbert brush, a little touch of black. Hopefully that'll stand out. Yeah, that's good. There. Just a small indications. It's way off in the distance, so we don't need too much detail. We don't need much detail right now. And this painting, since there's not too much, it's not going to be too detailed, which is good. This is a good painting for beginners because it teaches you, okay, I want to put details. Maybe you want to. I always like putting details, but kind of forces you to not put detail and just learn the values. Right now, when learning the new technique, I'm struggling with not putting much detail. Back to the same issue I had, not putting much detail and just focusing on the values. There, we have that reflection going on just by drawing it and blending it out a bit. Now, let's go into a little cadmium yellow onto my base color, and we'll grab a touch of umber and a touch of the brown I mixed up. I want a very dull green color. It's way off in the distance. That's too dark. We'll add some white to it. How about now? Okay, that's better. Just to indicate a few bit of vegetation, little bit of grass that lives out there. We don't know how much or if it's a jungle or what, but it's it's a little bit vegetation area. And just try to reflect some of that into that reflection. Again, not too much detail, but barely just reflecting some of that. Now, we can grab our palette knife and we'll add a touch of blue to our white, just like this, and cut a roll of paint. You'll have that little nice edge of paint. And right now I'm realizing, look, if we don't blend this out, you're going to have that gap. So might as well just fill it in right now. Okay, right here. Here lives a few little water lines, some ripples. There. And we can put a little water line right there just to indicate the separation of the sky and the water. Okay, pretty simple. And even then, you could end the painting right there if you really wanted to. I always say you could end it at a certain part, but hey, right there. If I was a beginner, I would end it there. But let's keep adding some elements and make it more interesting. Just a little bit of that brown I mixed up of that consists of sap green and alizarin crimson, mixed with a little bit of that base color we're working with earlier. Now let's decide. Let's go up here. Maybe like so. And maybe something right here. Maybe that bolt has to be a bit longer. There we are. And then we'll add a little bit of black to that color just to gray it down. I want a nice gray tone. We're just gonna very gentle, that way that line doesn't become too wide. And then shoot, we'll grab a touch of blue with our dirty brush and some titanium white, just until you get the value of color you want. And let's, how do I have my, okay, we'll we'll just create that little flag there. And I want us to see a bit of that line behind it. Now let's go into white, almost pure white. Notice how I use the word almost, not quite, but we just want some indication of light hitting it. There. And maybe down here below too. So that way when you look at it, oh, you see that little indication and it catches your eye. Let's go into a little bit of the brown I mixed up and a little bit of white and the same polluted color, have maybe a touch of burnt umber. I just want subtle indications of some highlights just creeping on the boat. Okay, right here, just let's go a little burnt umber, some titanium white, maybe a slight touch of crimson, just slight, very slight. It can overpower it. Needs more white. There. Shoot. I like that. Very subtle. And we'll go back. We'll just add in a few little water lines. Just to indicate the ripples. Okay. Now, let's get to the good part, which is the closest part. We'll go ahead and let's go into the brown we mix up pre-video and some ivory black. Just mix them up. Since they're close, they're very, very dark. And just start to shape out um, how you want your rocks to look. There's no right or wrong when it comes to shaping these rocks. Of course, unless you work by reference, like a photo reference, then kind of, but even then, you have your artist license that tells you just because it looks good on picture doesn't mean it does for good painting. So you have that ability to change things to make it good for the painting. But I'm blocking in where I think my first rock would go. And not all of this is going to show. Keep that in mind. So you got to just block it in and think of the layers up ahead. There. Okay, maybe there's going to be one that works its way out here and just comes down right there. Okay, just think about them individually. You don't have to rush this process of shaping them. Look, maybe we angle that a bit, and maybe maybe we create one that just comes up, comes down, and just right there in the corner. There. Let's go a little bit of brown, some white. Load up your brush and just think of each individual layer of where the light would hit, all that. See, I put highlight over here, but I forgot the light coming this way. Because if we said the clouds hitting here, the boat, you have that little. Well, actually, since the light source is right here, it's like that in the center. So yeah, this could work. But you always have to keep that in mind. Where is my light source? Am I jeopardizing or making everything look off? Because you can make everything look completely off in a couple seconds. If you don't really mind, that's good. But if you start to care, you have to really, really consider it. So not much light right there. So I think I'm done kind of working in that area. We'll just okay, and right here, boom. Just again, look at the light source and come back to what you're trying to highlight. Little bit would creep up right here. Okay, and right there. Now this one wouldn't have much highlight, but we'll work some in right now because we gotta distinguish everything. So a little bit more black just to kind of dull it and darken our highlight. Just something out there. And I'm gonna add some greenery just to kind of pull that out because we want something to be there. A little more white to our brown and just touch it. Let me add a little more white. There. Just tapping. Just creating those nice little patterns and craters that the rocks tend to have. Not the rocks. And let's go ahead. Let's we'll come back to that in a moment. Or you know what? Let's just do it all at once. Little brown, little black, and we can start to add in our shadows. So if you bring some through the highlights, it'll create those little craters. Make your rocks and all that look interesting. Rather if you just block it in. Like if I were to do this, just like this, there's not much um, action going there. But if I look just with the simple fact right here, and maybe right there, and bring it through there. Look how much action it creates, and you can go back and add more highlights. Look, oh, we're going to a little highlight right here. Boop, 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 boop. There. and just bring it out a bit. Look at how much more it brings out rather than just, oh, it's there, you know? Okay, we'll add more black, brown right here, and just block in where you think those little details must be, block them right in there. Don't hesitate. You can always go back and paint on top of it, so don't be scared to try things out. It's always good to test it out and see, okay, maybe this worked, maybe this didn't. Why didn't this work? There, that's all I want to do really there. We'll go into little cadmium yellow and just add in a layer or aspect of some greenery. It also separates everything right there. Maybe. Hmm. We can create those little patterns. Just very subtle indications. There. There we are. Maybe a little bit of grass right there in the corner in that little pocket. Okay, let's go back and a little bit of brown and black, loading up that flat brush. And let's decide, I think right there. And so when you're looking at a sort of bridge, I would say, you have to keep in mind that angle because where you're standing, it looks wider, but when you start looking out, it gets more narrow and narrow. So you can't just paint them the same length. So you gotta keep in mind that angle where it gets a little wider. There, and I'm just gonna block in a little bit and try your best to avoid getting out the lines right here. It's best you stay in the lines. Most other parts, yeah, if you get out the line, it doesn't really matter. But here, since it's, I like to say this, a man-made thing. You don't see this in nature, so these things, are pretty straight, are pretty angled, and you can't. It's not easy to get away with. Oh, maybe it was made like that. No, people don't make stuff like that usually. So try to keep as straight as you can and all that good stuff. Okay, well, boop, boop. We'll leave it open. That way, if someone's running, they could jump in and have a good time. Boop, boop. And lastly, boop, right here. And it's going to lead the viewer's eye right towards the center to bring it out completely. There. And we'll have some highlights going on. We'll bring in a bit of umber. And you can just tap a little bit and create that little pattern. Very simple, yet very effective. and it'll just fade out. Now, let's come up here and add the edges, some highlights. There we are. Okay, a little bit of highlight right here on the railings. Maybe there is some right there. We can make the railings pop out just by the little pattern right there. You okay? Sure, sure. Okay, that's good. That's good. I like where it's going. A little bit of black, a little bit of brown, and let's come up here and maybe the lower I get, the more pressure I put onto my brush. That way, the bristles open up and the base is thicker than the top. The top you want to have very, very delicate pressure. Now we'll add a little bit of yellow to my black color. That way we get a nice muted green. Let's just so you can notice a little green hopefully. I'm gonna try to get close without touching the boat because I want that spot to be meaningful and have its own spotlight. Okay, maybe just right. At least for me, it's very, very helpful to make sounds because it distracts you from focusing too hard. And we'll just lightly pull it, very lightly. Shoo. Boom, 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 boom. There. Look at that. It all comes to life right there. There. A little more yellow. There. I'm going to some cadmium yellow and just add in a few little highlights here and there. We can blend them out that way. If they're too vibrant on us, we could say no thank you. There we are. Ever so slightly. And add a little dark color. And look at that. I love it. A little bit of brown, a little bit of white in there. Just mixing up colors and trying new things out. And boop. Okay. Now, let's add some dark color. And maybe there lives a tree right on top of these rocks. Okay. And maybe just very gently. My brain wasn't working on that. Very gentle, I meant to say. There. That way the twigs and very, very thin. You can do this with the flat brush. You can do this with the script liner. Does not matter. There we are. Maybe right there. The reason why I'm not using my script liner, I do have it, but oh god, I don't want to dirty it. And so if you could get away with one brush and less cleaning, it's better. Trust me. Plus, it helps you learn how to work a brush. Of course, some things are better for others, but you can learn how to work a brush. Like, you wouldn't use a 2-inch brush for this, but you could if you wanted to. If you chisel that brush, you do it. Or you wouldn't use a filbert brush, but that one would be a bit more trickier, but you can still do it. Let's use a 1-inch brush. Load up some ivory black, and we'll just add in a few little leaves. Just a bit of foliage. I don't want this to be a leafless tree. I want it to have some greens because there's not much greens around. So with this tree, we can incorporate more greens. There. We'll go into a little bit of cadmium yellow with that same 1-inch. And we'll just come up here and boop. Oh, that's gorgeous. Then there we are. We'll grab a little bit of crimson and incorporate it into our yellow. Look at that. Very gentle. And if the paint's not sticking, feel free to add a little bit of liquid white. That liquid white will thin out the paint. And in this method, a thin paint will stick onto a thicker paint. So, if it doesn't stick on quite as well as you want, add a little bit of liquid white or liquid clear or black. Now, last and finally, we gotta cover up that base of the tree. Can't have it exposed. It's like a naked person. You gotta always cover it. There. Well, just load up the brush and boom. There. Just think of each individual layer. You can do all one same color, or you can change up the colors. Sometimes it's nice to add variation, and sometimes just for learning, it's good to stick to one color because it forces you to work on layers because they're all the same color. And if you don't do the layers right, well, they're gonna blend. They're going to blend in all together. And just like that, we have a completed painting, just like the one from my drawing. Well, I really hope you enjoy it. Try this painting out. If you do, send me a photo through my email. I would love to see what you create. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Take care. Goodbye.